Let me guess. You actually have an edge. One real skill, one relationship, one piece of experience that's genuinely worth something. And you've used it exactly once, cashed it in for exactly one modest outcome, and moved on, wondering why the people around you seem to squeeze 10 different opportunities out of what looks like the exact same single advantage you're sitting on. Here's a brutal truth most people never let themselves hear. Having an advantage was never the hard part. You already have one right now, whether you've noticed it or not. The hard part, the part almost nobody is ever taught, is that one advantage, used once, is worth exactly one outcome. The same advantage, deliberately multiplied, is worth 10, and the gap between those two numbers has nothing to do with how good the original advantage actually was. If that idea just made you slightly uncomfortable, good. That discomfort usually means you've spent your one real edge exactly once, somewhere in your past, and quietly let it end there. Stick with me for the next few minutes, because what follows is the exact mechanism the wealthy use to turn a single spark into a fire that keeps burning long after the original match is gone. And if even one part of this lands, subscribe right now, because the entire purpose of this channel is teaching you how to keep lighting that fire, video after video, long after this one ends. You were told, find your one thing and stick to it. That advice isn't wrong. It's simply incomplete. Sticking to your one thing without multiplying it is exactly how a genuinely valuable advantage quietly turns into a single, forgettable moment instead of a compounding fortune. Machiavelli understood multiplication of advantage better than almost anyone who's ever written about power. He said, a wise ruler, never let a single victory simply end where it happened. He used it immediately as a foundation for the next gain, and the next, understanding that fortune rewarded those who converted one piece of strength into several, rather than those who treated each gain as a separate, isolated event, with nothing left over to build on. Money works exactly the same way. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. Two people can hold the exact same advantage, the same skill, the same connection, the same lucky break, and 10 years later one of them has built an entire structure out of it, while the other has a single faded memory of the time it briefly paid off. Picture two people, both offered the exact same opportunity at the exact same starting point. A single introduction to someone influential in their field. The first person uses that introduction for exactly what it was offered for. One project, one payment, one transaction, and considers the opportunity closed the moment the check clears. The second person uses that same single introduction completely differently. They deliver, then ask for one more introduction. They turn the completed project into a visible proof point that opens the next door. They let that one relationship quietly become 3, then 5, then a small network entirely built from a single original spark. 5 years later, the first person is still describing that one lucky introduction as the best thing that ever happened to their career. The second person has built an entire business on top of it, and barely remembers it as the starting point at all. I didn't understand this gap from a strategy course. I understood it from watching my own real advantages disappear, one at a time, the moment I'd used them for their single, most obvious purpose. There was a period where I genuinely believed advantages were meant to be spent, used once for the specific outcome they were clearly designed for, and then set aside while I waited for the next lucky break to arrive on its own. It wasn't until I noticed, uncomfortably, that people with objectively smaller starting advantages than mine were somehow building far more from them, that I started studying what they were actually doing differently. It wasn't a bigger advantage. It was the same modest advantage, deliberately reused, reframed, and reinvested into the next one, over and over, long after I would have already considered mine fully spent. It wasn't until I stopped treating my own advantages as single use and started treating them as seed capital that anything in my own results actually changed. That's when Machiavelli's idea about converting one gain into the foundation for the next stopped being an old line about warfare and became the exact explanation for the gap between the version of me who was stuck and the version who wasn't. And if that idea stings a little right now, good. Because the sting usually means an advantage you've been sitting on just became visible again. History proves this pattern relentlessly. Take Estée Lauder. She started with a single genuine advantage, a skin cream formula, and a real talent for selling it face-to-face, one customer at a time, in beauty shops and salons. Most people with that exact starting advantage would have used it for exactly what it was, a modest, single-product business. She didn't. She used that one advantage to build trust with individual customers, then used that trust to get her products placed in department stores, then used those placements to build a brand, then used that brand to launch an entire family of related product lines built on the same original relationship-driven selling skill that started the whole thing. One advantage, deliberately reused and reinvested at every single stage, became an entire cosmetics empire. That relentless reuse of a single core strength, rather than treating each stage as a separate, disconnected achievement, is a significant part of why her name still sits on countless products around the world today. She understood something most people never grasp. An advantage used once produces one result. The exact same advantage, deliberately reinvested into the next opportunity it creates, produces a chain. And chains, unlike single results, keep growing on their own long after the first link was ever forged. That's the real subject of this video. Not another lecture about finding your passion or your one true skill. This is the exact mechanism, 10 specific moves, that the wealthy use to turn one genuine advantage into 10 compounding ones, using nothing more than what you're probably already sitting on right now. There are 10 of them. Let's go through every one. Move 1. They stack the same advantage across multiple contexts instead of spending it once. Most people, once they've successfully used an advantage for its most obvious purpose, consider that advantage fully used and move on, without ever asking where else the exact same strength might apply. Machiavelli believed that a resource proven effective in one situation should immediately be considered for others, rather than treated as though its usefulness had been exhausted the moment its first application succeeded. Here's what single-use thinking looks like. Someone uses a skill, a relationship, or a piece of proof successfully once, and files it away as finished business, never returning to ask whether that same exact strength could be applied to a second, third, or fourth situation entirely. Here's what stacking looks like instead. Someone, immediately after a successful use of any advantage, deliberately asks where else this exact same strength could apply, actively seeking additional contexts for the identical skill, relationship, or proof point, rather than waiting for a new advantage to arrive. An advantage used once pays once. The exact same advantage, deliberately applied across several different contexts, pays several times over from a single original source that never actually had to grow to produce all of it. Finding these additional contexts usually just requires asking one honest question after every successful use. Who else has this exact same problem? The advantage that solved it once rarely stops working simply because the first situation ended. It's the asking that stops, not the advantage's actual usefulness. Now pause for a second. Think about one advantage you used successfully once, and then set aside without asking where else it could apply. Put it into a word or two in your mind, because that advantage is very likely still sitting there, fully intact, waiting for a second, third, and fourth use you simply never went looking for. Move 2. They convert a skill into reputation, then convert reputation into access. There's a specific chain most people never complete. A skill, used well, quietly builds a reputation. That reputation, if actually leveraged, opens access to rooms and opportunities the raw skill alone never could have reached on its own. Machiavelli understood that reputation functioned as a form of currency entirely separate from the original ability that built it, and that a ruler who failed to convert demonstrated skill into visible reputation left enormous value sitting completely unused. Here's what stopping at skill looks like. Someone does excellent work repeatedly, but never deliberately builds or leverages the reputation that work has quietly earned, treating each project as separate rather than as evidence accumulating towards something larger. Here's what converting skill into access looks like instead. Someone deliberately makes their demonstrated skill visible and known, allowing the resulting reputation to open doors, introductions, and opportunities that the raw skill, kept quiet, never would have reached on its own. A skill nobody knows about pays exactly what that one piece of work was worth. The same skill, converted deliberately into visible reputation, pays for every future opportunity that reputation quietly opens. This conversion doesn't require self-promotion that feels uncomfortable or excessive. It simply requires making sure results, once achieved, become genuinely visible to the people positioned to act on that visibility, rather than staying buried inside a private, satisfied client relationship that nobody outside it will ever learn about. Move 3. They one relationship into a small compounding network. Most people treat a single valuable relationship as a single static asset, useful for exactly the thing it was originally built around, and nothing more. Machiavelli believed that a single strong alliance, used skillfully, could be the doorway to several others, and that a ruler who failed to extend one genuine relationship into a broader network was leaving most of that relationship's actual value completely untouched. Here's what a static relationship looks like. Someone maintains one valuable connection, using it only for the specific purpose it originally served, never asking that person for an introduction, a reference, or a connection to their own broader network. Here's what a compounding network looks like instead. Someone treats one genuine relationship as the entry point to several more, respectfully asking for introductions once real value has already been delivered, allowing a single original connection to quietly become an entire small network over time. One relationship, kept static, remains exactly one relationship. The same relationship, extended deliberately and respectfully, becomes the root of an entire network that keeps growing long after the original connection was made. The timing of the ask matters more than the ask itself. Requesting an introduction before delivering any real value feels transactional and often falls flat. The same request, made naturally after genuine value has already been provided, tends to be answered generously because it arrives as a natural next step rather than an imposition. Now pause again. Think about one valuable relationship you currently have that's never been asked to introduce you to anyone else. 1 or 2 words. That's enough, because that single untapped relationship may already contain the next 5 opportunities you've been waiting for elsewhere. Move 4. They reinvest the output of one advantage into acquiring a second complementary one. There's a specific trap in simply spending everything an advantage produces. The income, the opportunity, the recognition consumed entirely in the moment, rather than partially redirected toward acquiring a second capability that compounds alongside the first. Machiavelli believed that gains, wisely used, should be reinvested into acquiring further strength, rather than consumed entirely the moment they arrived, because strength left to simply accumulate and then vanish, never actually multiplied into anything larger. Here's what full consumption looks like. Someone earns real value from their core advantage and spends the entirety of that output on immediate needs or wants, leaving nothing behind to acquire a second, complementary skill or capability. Here's what reinvestment looks like instead. Someone deliberately redirects a portion of whatever their core advantage produces toward acquiring a second, genuinely complementary capability, so that the two advantages eventually work together, each one amplifying what the other can produce. One advantage, fully spent, produces one result and then requires starting over from scratch. Two complementary advantages, deliberately built on top of each other, produce combinations neither one could have created alone. Move 5. They repackage the same core value into different formats for different audiences. Most people deliver their core value in exactly one format, and assume anyone who wants that value has to come to them in exactly that same format, closing off entire audiences who would have genuinely valued the same underlying substance delivered differently. Machiavelli understood that the same underlying strength could be presented in different forms, depending on the audience being addressed, and that rigidly insisting on a single format limited how widely that strength could actually be recognized and used. Here's what single format thinking looks like. Someone delivers their core value in exactly one way, a single service, a single product, a single kind of engagement, turning away anyone whose needs don't precisely match that one specific format. Here's what repackaging looks like instead. Someone identifies the actual underlying value at the core of what they offer and deliberately builds several different formats around that same core, reaching audiences who would never have engaged with the original format alone. The same core value, delivered in only one shape, reaches only the audience that specific shape happens to fit. The same value, deliberately repackaged into several shapes, reaches every audience each individual shape can reach. Move 6. They let one small proof point do the selling for many future opportunities. A single genuine proof of results, a testimonial, a case study, a specific concrete outcome, is worth far more than most people ever extract from it, precisely because they use it once and then let it quietly disappear instead of deploying it repeatedly. Machiavelli believed that visible evidence of past success functioned as ongoing leverage, continuing to persuade long after the original achievement itself had passed, provided that evidence was actually kept visible and in use. Here's what letting proof disappear looks like. Someone achieves a genuine, specific result, mentions it once in passing, and then lets it quietly fade from view, never actively using it again to support future opportunities that the exact same proof point could have helped unlock. Here's what deploying proof repeatedly looks like instead. Someone identifies their strongest, most specific proof point and deliberately keeps it visible and in active use across many future conversations, applications, and pitches, letting one real result continue selling long after it originally happened. A proof point used once convinces exactly one person, exactly once. The same proof point, kept visible and reused deliberately, keeps convincing new people indefinitely, at no additional cost beyond simply remembering to use it again. Proof points tend to fade from active use simply through neglect, not because they've stopped being persuasive. Revisiting old wins periodically and asking whether they're still being actively deployed anywhere often uncovers genuinely strong evidence that's been sitting unused for months or years, quietly losing none of its actual value in the meantime. Now pause once more. Think about your single strongest proof of results, and whether you're actually still using it anywhere right now. One word is enough, because that specific piece of evidence is very likely still capable of opening doors it hasn't been asked to open in a long time. Move 7. They use a single win as direct leverage to negotiate the next opportunity upward. Most people, after a genuine win, quietly return to negotiating their next opportunity from scratch, as though the win itself had no bearing on what they deserve to ask for next. Machiavelli believed that a demonstrated victory should be used immediately and directly to secure a stronger position going forward, rather than treated as a separate event with no leverage attached to it afterward. Here's what negotiating from scratch looks like. Someone achieves a real measurable win, and then approaches their next opportunity, salary, deal or partnership exactly as they would have before the win happened, without ever directly leveraging it in the negotiation. Here's what leveraging the win looks like instead. Someone explicitly, confidently uses the specific, measurable win as direct leverage in the very next negotiation, asking for meaningfully more precisely, because that specific proof of value now exists to support the ask. A win left unused in the next negotiation might as well not have happened at all, financially speaking. The same win, deliberately leveraged, directly raises the floor of every negotiation that follows it. The discomfort here is usually about tone, not substance. Stating a specific measurable win plainly, without excessive modesty or excessive boasting, simply as a fact relevant to the current negotiation, tends to land far better than either extreme. The win doesn't need to be dramatized. It just needs to actually be mentioned instead of quietly left out. Move 8. They protect and refine the core advantage, instead of chasing shiny new ones. There's a specific, common mistake that undoes several of the previous moves, constantly chasing an entirely new advantage, instead of continuing to deepen and refine the original one that's already proven itself. Machiavelli valued a ruler who deepened and defended his existing strength over one who was constantly distracted by new, unproven opportunities, understanding that a well-refined existing advantage usually outperformed a series of shallow, half-developed new ones. Here's what chasing new advantages looks like. Someone, bored with their proven core strength, keeps pivoting toward new skills or opportunities before the original advantage has ever been fully developed or multiplied, restarting the entire compounding process again and again. Here's what protecting the core advantage looks like instead. Someone continues deepening and refining the one advantage that's already proven itself, resisting the pull toward constant novelty, understanding that a fully matured, multiplied advantage outperforms a long list of shallow, unfinished ones. A dozen half-developed advantages produce less combined than one advantage taken all the way through the full multiplication process this video has been describing. Move 9. They combine several small advantages into one larger advantage nobody can easily copy. Most people evaluate their advantages individually. This skill, that relationship, that piece of experience, without ever asking what specific combination of 2 or 3 of them together might produce something genuinely unique. Machiavelli believed that a ruler's true strength often came not from any single resource alone, but from the specific, deliberate combination of several resources working together in a way no single rival could easily replicate. Here's what evaluating advantages individually looks like. Someone lists their individual strengths separately, comparing each one on its own to what competitors offer, never noticing that no single strength alone is genuinely rare or hard to copy. Here's what combining them looks like instead. Someone deliberately identifies which 2 or 3 of their individual advantages, combined together, create something genuinely uncommon, a specific combination that would be difficult for any single competitor to fully replicate at once. Any single advantage can usually be matched by someone else eventually. The specific combination of several advantages, deliberately assembled together, is far harder for anyone else to copy in full. A simple way to find these combinations is listing 3 individual strengths side by side and asking what specific opportunity would require all 3 at once. That specific intersection is usually where genuine, hard-to-copy advantage actually lives, even when none of the 3 strengths alone would have stood out as particularly rare. Move 10. They understand that real wealth isn't built by having many advantages. It's built by compounding one relentlessly. This is the move that ties every other one together. And it's the reason this entire video exists. Every move we've covered, stacking one advantage across contexts, converting skill into reputation, extending one relationship into a network, reinvesting output into a second advantage, repackaging core value, redeploying proof points, leveraging wins upward, protecting the core advantage, combining several into one uncopyable strength. They all share the same underlying truth. The goal was never collecting more separate advantages. It was multiplying the ones you already have, relentlessly, long after most people would have considered them fully used. Machiavelli never believed a ruler needed an unlimited number of resources to build lasting power. He believed a ruler needed to use the resources he actually had with far more discipline and imagination than his rivals ever bothered to apply to theirs. Here's what this looks like in real life. You finish this video. You already know, right now, which single advantage you've been sitting on, fully spent in your own mind, but actually still full of unused potential. Not vaguely. Specifically, you already have one in mind. The version of you who actually multiplies wealth doesn't wait for a brand new advantage to arrive from somewhere else. They return today to the one they already have and ask where else it could apply, who else it could reach, what it could be reinvested into next. The version of you who stays stuck closes this video, feels briefly inspired, and returns tomorrow to treating every advantage as single use, wondering why the same starting point keeps producing the same modest, one-time results. The only real difference between those two people was never how good their original advantage actually was. It was whether they multiplied it or simply spent it once and moved on. Take even one advantage you've already used and ask today where else it could apply, and everything else on this list becomes far easier to build on top of. Now, don't think about finding some brand new advantage you don't currently have. Think about the one you're already sitting on, fully spent in your own mind, but actually far from finished. Not analyzing it further. Not waiting for a bigger one to arrive first, just naming it. One word. That's the whole exercise. Because that word is the single spark this entire video has been describing, and multiplied deliberately, it can become the fire that everything else on this list gets built around. Wealth was never reserved for people with the most advantages to begin with. It was reserved for people who took the one they already had and refused to let it end at a single, isolated result. None of the 10 moves on this list require waiting for a bigger or better starting advantage than the one currently available. The mechanism works exactly the same way on a modest advantage as it does on an impressive one. What separates the two outcomes was never the size of the original spark. It was whether anyone actually returned to it again and again and asked what else it could still become. If this shifted the way you see your own advantage, even slightly, don't stop here. Because what you've heard in this video is only the surface. There are deeper layers to leverage, reputation, and long-term wealth building that simply can't be covered fully in a single video. Not because they don't exist, but because most people aren't ready to multiply what they already have yet. If you're not one of them, then subscribe, because every video here is built to sharpen exactly this skill. Turn what you're already sitting on into far more than it currently is, and separate you from everyone still treating a genuine advantage as a single, forgettable moment. No fluff, no noise, just strategy. Most people will watch this and let their advantage sit unused again tomorrow. A few will close this video and put theirs back to work within the hour. Decide which one you are.